Welcome to the Michigan Man Podcast on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V-Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew, for Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. We continue our preseason previews this week, and our guest is one of the all-time Michigan greats. And if you like Michigan trivia, if someone asks you who was the biggest player to ever play for the Wolverines, if you answer Greg Skrepenak, you are right. Greg joins me on our game day segment in just a minute. First, a few news and notes to get us started. Week 3 of camp is underway, and here is what we do know. It's down to Wilton Spate and John O'Korn at starting quarterback. Jim Harbaugh is very impressed with his receiving corps, especially the true freshmen. According to Maurice Hurst and Rashawn Gary, the offensive line is the most improved position group on the team. We're still not sure who is starting, but it sounds like Mason Cole has been sticking at left tackle, while Patrick Kugler fights it out with true freshman Cesar Ruiz at center. Jim said Ben Bredesen is the man at left guard, probably Michael Onwenu at right, flanked by either Jawan Bushell-Beatty or John Runyon Jr. The running back competition is fierce, and it sounds like sophomore Chris Evans will get the starting nod, but we'll see plenty of Ty Isaac, Karan Higdon, and even Kareem Walker. Don Brown is set with his front four over on the defensive side, while Mike McCray will start at a middle linebacker spot and probably be joined by Devin Bush Jr. The secondary is where the competition is going full bore. Last week, Coach Brown said he has 7 players battling for playing time, and he likes all of them. It sounds like a lot of the position battles on both the offense and the defense, as well as the kicking game, might not be settled for another week or so, and Coach Jim Harbaugh said that is just fine with him. Last week, Jamie Morris gave us his unique perspective on his friend and former teammate Jim Harbaugh. This week, we're joined by another of Jim's teammates, two-time consensus first-team All-American and captain his senior year. Greg Skrepenak joins me next on our Game Day segment here on the Michigan Man on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V-Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. Back with us this week on our Michigan Game Day segment as we continue our previews in anticipation of the fast approaching season is Michigan great Greg Skrepenak. Great to have you back with us, Greg.
Yeah, Mike, always a pleasure.
2 weeks of practice in the books as of today, Greg. We're recording on a Monday morning. The fans, of course, are chomping at the bit to get the season started. I'm sure the players are and the coaches. When you get to this point in preseason training camp where you've been going at it for 2 weeks, are you just about ready to tee it up and go?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, for the last couple of weeks, all you do is hit within the team, and that gets redundant. It gets, and I'm not going to say boring, but it gets just, you get tired of it. And so you want to hit an opponent. You want to hit somebody on the field when it matters. You want the game, you want the lights to come on, and you want to be under those lights, and you want to play and get out there and strut your stuff, so to speak, and just get out there and be able to compete against somebody that's not your own team.
Well, last week I had Jamie Morris on the show, your old friend, and we talked about the new NCAA practice rules. 1 practice per day, 1 day off during the week, no more double sessions, a lot different than back in the day when you guys were playing. Do you like these new rules?
Well, if I was a player, I'd like them. If I still played, yeah, absolutely. The doubles, as long as, I would prefer probably 1 practice padded, maybe 1 practice not, or maybe even a conditioning practice. It's just not enough time. It's not enough time to prepare when you think about it. And I think these coaches today have a really tough challenge with trying to get the time necessary to put a quality team on the field. And so it's great for the players, and I understand why they're doing it, but there is a softness to it as well. I mean, I'm not going to say that our era was tougher than anybody else, but when you're constantly hitting and you're constantly getting ready, you develop a toughness that I don't think today's players, not that they're not tough, I just don't think they have the opportunity to develop. So it's a catch-22. It's good in one sense, it's bad in the other. But it is what it is, and that's what they have to deal with. So you move forward.
Well, Greg, last week the Big Ten Network Caravan was in town on Friday. We didn't learn much, didn't expect to, but we did hear from Jim Harbaugh there was separation in the battle for starting quarterback. It now appears to be down to Wilton Speight and John O'Korn. And you would think Wilton still has the inside track to win that job, though, with his experience, wouldn't you?
You would think. The one thing, Mike, about this team is we're going to talk about is that lack of experience. And that is going to be a key for this team. And I think it's overrated in one sense because the good news is what this team is doing right now is there's competition at every position. There's competition at every position. And Jim Harbaugh has tried to, bring that competition at every position since he came to Michigan a few years back. And by creating that competition, you're keeping everybody interested. You're keeping everybody trying to do their best on every practice, every time they go out there. Especially with so many limited practices, you only practice one time a day. These players only have limited opportunity to show their stuff. So now this competition is becoming more intense, it's becoming greater, and everybody's involved. And that's the great thing about this team. However, Wilton Speight gets that little bit of an edge because he has done it before. He's been through a year where he's got that experience, and experience is the greatest teacher. So you would think going into it that Speight would have a little bit of an inside track, but all the stuff that I had heard is they were really high on Peters before all this stuff, before the separation, before we heard about the separation. So you never know what's going to happen. I trust if there's one position that Jim Harbaugh knows, it's the quarterback position, not only as a player, but he's proven it as a coach and how he can develop quarterbacks. So I'm very comfortable with any of these guys that he chooses. But, you think about Wilton Speight, he had a great year last year for the beginning of the year. And then after his injury, he kind of fell off, which is kind of to be expected for a first-year starter. So I would hope he would build on that, but I wouldn't shut down I wouldn't give up on John O'Korn yet because if Harbaugh is saying that he's in the mix, he's in the mix.
There is a lot of focus on who the quarterback will be. That will continue for the next couple of weeks, rightfully so. But the degree of their success hinges on the guys in the trenches. So if we could, Greg, let's talk about your old position, that offensive line, for a bit. Jim Harbaugh doesn't like depth charts, so this is my best guess on what our depth chart looks like. Patrick Kugler at center, Michael Onwenu at right guard, Ben Bredesen at left guard, John Runyon Jr. or Jawan Bushell-Beatty at right tackle, and a lock is Mason Cole over at left tackle. Do you like this group, Greg?
You know what? Yeah, absolutely. And I want to talk a little bit about Mason Cole, Mike, because I think he gets so under the radar, it's not even funny. He is a typical University of Michigan offensive lineman where the only time he gets recognized if something goes wrong up front, there's a holding call, or if there was a bad snap or something like that. But what this kid has done is really underrated. I mean, to go to left tackle, then into center, now back out to left tackle, that's impressive. It's very impressive what he's done, and he's been a mainstay for the last 3 years. I would expect him to be the leader of this bunch, and so I think the fans need to recognize how special of a player Mason Cole is and what he's done, and I really think he's just so underrated.
Tim Derevno said last week that Mason Cole can play any position on that offensive line, which is absolutely amazing. But we've seen him play center. I've not seen him play guard, and we saw him play left tackle for 2 years. He is a big-time player, isn't he?
There's no doubt about it. What the good news for him is because of his versatility, that will only help him as he moves on into a professional career if he wants to. That'll be an extra value to any team he's on. As he finishes up his Michigan career, it's just an impressive feat. I mean, I played, right tackle or left tackle, and that's hard enough. But it's the same position. It's the same. Basically, you're just on a different side of the line, but the schemes are the same. The blocking technique is the same. You're working with the same people, tight ends and guards. So it's not an easy thing to do, but it's a lot easier than what Mason Cole has done because now you go from an outside position as a tackle inside to a center and or guard, the game changes. And I played guard in the NFL, and the game changes. So your techniques change a little bit. Who you're working with change. The calls change. So what he's done is so impressive, and I can't say it enough that the fans need to recognize this. And most of the time they wouldn't think twice unless the offensive line isn't doing their job. But this guy has done it. Not only has he done it consistently, he's done it well, and he's done it well at every position they ask. And that's the other thing. At the University of Michigan, he personifies exactly what it's all about, the team, because he's done everything in his power to do what is in the best interest of the team by moving his position, whether it be at left tackle or center, and that's what it's all about.
On that offensive line, Greg, let's talk about center for a minute. Patrick Kugler, fifth-year senior, battling for that starting spot. He's been around. He made a start last year, actually. I think it was in the Indiana game at guard. He is locked in a battle, from what we hear, with a true freshman, Cesar Ruiz, from down in IMG Academy in Florida. That center position is so important as far as anchoring that offensive line. How would you feel about a freshman actually winning that job? That seems like an awful lot of information to have to process and coordinate that offensive line at a very young age.
There's no doubt about it. That is a very difficult. It's the quarterback position of the offensive line, and it certainly would seem like a tall order for a freshman. However, here's the way I see it: that when Harbaugh put Mason Cole back at left tackle, he had a very good idea that there was capable people coming in and playing center. And I would say Kugler, and he said that. I thought he had said that Kugler was having a very good camp as well. But there again, here we go with that competition. A young kid comes in knowing that there's nothing solidified on the offensive front, and he competes. And what that does is not only gives him a chance, but it makes Kugler a better player. It makes everybody a better player. And that's the beauty of it. But I have no problem with the freshman playing center. It certainly is a tall order, but if he's capable, he's capable. So it's a new game now. It's a different game. Even back, 20, 25 years when I played, freshmen still didn't play that often. They didn't play much unless they were pressed to the service. I know my class in 1987, the recruiting class of 1987, of the 20, 25 guys that we had, only 2 guys saw action as freshmen. That was Dean Dingman and Trip Wellborn. And we wish we had them when we were fifth-year seniors because we probably would have been a better team, but they were pressed in the service. Now, freshmen come to college campuses expecting to start immediately, not necessarily because they're good enough, but I think they are good enough, but more importantly because this is the culture of college football today. Freshmen are going to see the field faster than they've ever seen it before in the history of college football. And that's the way it is. And this is the mindset that every freshman should have coming into camp, is that, yeah, I could play. I could see the field. I could see the field. And so, hey, if that's the case, I'd love to see it. But I would expect Kugler to win that position. That would be my guess as of now.
Well, Greg, you and I have talked about this before, seeing so many true freshmen, not just in the Big Ten, all over the country in college football, come in and play. And yes, you would expect the receivers, running backs, secondary, maybe a linebacker can come in. But what in your mind has changed in the last 10 years, 20 years, that now even offensive linemen as 18-year-olds are coming in and starting? What's different?
The difference between technique and when I played, it was run first, pass second. Now it's pass first, run second. So when I went into a stance, you had to use your run stance and get into a pass set from a run stance, basically. Now you have to run block from a pass stance, and that's the difference. If they had to come and just basically drive people off the ball, I don't know if they could do it as readily as when it comes to just with the emphasis being on pass blocking. It's not as if pass blocking's easier, although if you're a good athlete, you can move your feet, you're always going to have a chance to compete. So I think the culture has changed to where it was a run game, a run first game. Now it's a pass first game. So it's given these guys a chance to play immediately because it's a little easier to pick up on pass protection, if you ask me. Not necessarily picking up blitzes. I'm just talking about the technique of being able to move your feet and get in front of a defender, whereas it's a little different as you're trying to get somebody out of the trenches and you're trying to get all the different techniques and the run blocks and try to get all the defenses down and who's helping you on offense, and who's the tight end, the guard, the center, if it's a combination block, if it's a zone block, if it's a man block. Hey, if it's a pass protection, generally speaking, you have that guy, you're the guy I have, and we're going to block you and try to stay in front and keep you off the quarterback. So I think that's one of the main reasons, is that because of the emphasis being on the pass, I think it gives everybody a chance to compete and compete early. And let's face it, kids are going to the NFL quick. They're just going to the NFL. You don't have. It used to be most of your guys were at school for 4 to 5 years, and that doesn't happen anymore. Guys are there 3 years and they're gone. Maybe if they were allowed to, probably quicker than that. And so everybody wants theirs, so they're going to go to the next level if they can. But it's just the way the game goes now. It's just the way it is, and that's what has evolved over the years, and so we deal with it. Personally, I think a scholarship should be a minimum 4-year requirement. I think a tender should not just be a yearly tender. I think it should be a 4-year tender. And so we see it in other sports more prevalently, basketball, but even in football, these kids, Jabril could have been back this year, although I don't blame him for leaving, but that's just the way of the beast right now.
Well, let's talk about some other phases of the offense, if we could, for just a few minutes then, Greg. It looks like Chris Evans will start off getting the most carries out of the backfield, but we have Karan Higdon, Ty Isaac, Kareem Walker, who we also expect to get some carries. Does it help the offense if you have that one stud back? Is the running back by committee approach just as effective?
Well, you speak about culture, and that's the culture of football, not only in college now, but in the NFL. It's a running by committee. And I'm sure Jamie Morris could probably tell you more, that the pounding that a running back takes during a season, during a game, if he carries the ball 20, 25, 30 times, it's pretty brutal. And so to save any runner from that pounding, you want to kind of run by committee, and also you give an opportunity for the defense to see different styles of running, where they have to prepare for different styles of running. So that's an advantage for the offense. However, as an offensive lineman, I mean for consistency and continuity purposes, I certainly would like to see that one runner to get the ball 20, 25 times, just because of the timing of it, because you get used to them, you know the style. As an offensive lineman, you want to know who's behind you and how they run. So maybe by having a running back as committee, might throw off the defense, and also throws off the offensive line too, because there's backs that could see the hole better. There's power backs. There's slashers. So I mean, there's different types of runners that if it's one guy consistently in the background and there's an offensive line, it does become easier to block for, but it's all the same thing. If you get up into your block and you sustain it, the running backs usually find the hole and they'll make yards. So it's a little different, but it is what it is, and I think it's better for football the way it is now with the running back by committee.
Well, Greg, it seems we've always had a few big-time receivers to throw to, but at the wideout position right now, we have really incredible depth and competition. I mean, just listen to some of these options. We have Kakoa Crawford, Nate Johnson, Eddie McDoom, Maurice Ways, true freshmen Tariq Black and Donovan Peoples-Jones, Oliver Martin, and Brad Hawkins. They have to show us, of course, what they can do. But can you remember in recent memory when we've had this many talented young receivers on the roster at the same time?
No, I cannot. I mean, there's always been some guys step up to the forefront. You listen to Coach Harbaugh, especially talk about his freshmen and the competition they're having right now at the wide receiver position. I mean, and you see how he gets excited. It's hard for a man not to get excited. And we go back, we might not have all this experience, but here are these freshmen coming in, competing, and really making a difference. as they compete and making this position, which would have probably be seen as a question mark going into this season as a possible strength of this team. That's pretty impressive in itself. And so we'll see how it develops. But some of these guys, you see some of the highlights on of these practices and some of the catches that have already been made. It's one of those things where I look forward to it. Mike, most people don't realize last year when Penn State won the Big Ten championship, everyone talks about their running back and their quarterback. The real reason that Penn State won the Big Ten championship last year was because of their receivers. Mm-hmm. Because the receivers basically bailed out their quarterback on a lot of scrambles and such, but they made some great plays. And they're the reason I believe that Penn State won the Big Ten championship and went on to the Rose Bowl. So it's the kind of impact that these receivers can have on a team. You could see, it gets excited to kind of say, hey, okay, let's get these guys on the field and see what they can do.
Yeah, I agree with that. Penn State really had jump ball receivers. You just throw it up, get it in the area, and they hauled it down. They had an incredible crew last year, no doubt about it.
No, it's such an advantage. And so, if we could have those kind of, that kind of competition, that kind of talent at the receiver spot, oh man, it's good. Wilton Spate or O'Corn are certainly going to like that, and anybody, and Jim Harbaugh is going to love it too, because that makes a quarterback's job that much easier.
I omitted Grant Perry from the list. I just noticed that, but Grant was reinstated officially back in the program. I think it was last week he was officially reinstated, and he is the most experienced receiver that we have. So you have to include him. I like everything Grant Perry does. Great blocker downfield and just very reliable hands. So he is going to be out in the field a lot too, I would guess.
He would. Unfortunately, he's going to be suspended for a little while. Not play as much as in the beginning, I think, and that's rightfully so. But I'm glad he's getting the opportunity to right the wrong, so to speak. And hey, everybody makes mistakes, and I'm glad to see that he's been reinstated. And Ward Manuel and Jim did a great job of dealing with that. But the other thing, I think what most people don't realize, Mike, is that a staple of Michigan wide receiver football isn't necessarily the speed. It isn't necessarily how they catch and get open and touchdowns. But the staple was always blocking. And anytime you see a Michigan field, a Michigan team take the field, take notice of how the wide receivers block. It's an area in which there's great amount of pride taken, on this team for the receivers to block, because everyone knows, bottom line about football boils down to blocking and tackling, and the emphasis, for receivers on catching the ball was just as big for blocking. And so that's going to be exciting to see. And, for a guy like Perry, you certainly like to see him out there for his blocking abilities.
With us on our Game Day segment this week as we continue our previews in anticipation of that Florida opener on September 2nd is Michigan great Greg Skrepenak. Greg, Don Brown says his defense won't miss a beat this year. He has said that over and over during the winter, during spring ball. Of course, that is hard to imagine after what we witnessed last year. There are some question marks, but not on that defensive line. Led by Rashawn Gary, this is an incredibly talented group again, isn't it?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I would say Mo Hurst has had a great camp, and I would love to see how this line develops. I would expect if Coach Brown says there's not going to be a drop off, it's because of this group here. The defensive line is the key, much like the offensive line is the key to the offense. The defensive line is the key to the defense, and so Gary, Coach Brown has come out and touted him as legit as could be. So there's a lot of pressure on Rashawn Gary right now to perform at a high level. But this group, even with the freshmen, listen to Coach Harbaugh, this is the group that's going to be too deep. They're going to be rotating in and out. They're going to be doing the same things we've seen them do the last couple of years, and it's going to be interesting to see. Now, what I would like to see is, can they get to the quarterback with just a four-man rush? If they could get to the quarterback with a four-man rush, then this defense is going to be very, very tough because it creates so many different options for a defensive coordinator when just four guys could rush the passer. Whereas if you have to throw in different blitzes or different schemes or stunts and stuff like that, it's a different story when just four guys could rush and he could drop back. Because the big question mark on this team is the secondary. Having to replace four starters, you understand why. So the defensive line has that much more pressure on them to get pressure on the opposing team's quarterback.
Well, behind that very talented offensive or defensive front, I should say, is the linebacking core led by Mike McCray, who technically is the only starter returning on that defense. We saw Devin Bush Jr. in the spring game, saw a lot of him last year on special teams, and he looks like the real deal. He's as quick a linebacker as I've seen at Michigan in a long time. Do you think we're okay at those linebacker spots?
With those two, absolutely, and you never know who's going to come to the forefront. There's one thing I think Coach Harbaugh mentioned, too, when they're talking about this experience. Now, it's not as if these guys haven't played. It's, they just haven't started. And so when you talk about you lost all these starters, you know what? It's kind of semantic, so to speak, because a lot of these guys in Michigan's defense have rotated and played a lot of people. And so Michael McCray certainly had a great year last year. Devin Bush got in enough to know he knows what to expect. It's not as if they're going in there for the first time and they're not going to see any action. And they haven't seen any action before. So I would expect this defense not to be as green as everyone says they are. They haven't played. There's no experience. These guys have played. They've rotated. Now they're just going to be labeled starters. So I would expect the linebacking crew to come and play just as good, if not better, than they did a year ago.
Well, the entire secondary is new, albeit loaded with talent. Are you worried about that new secondary, Greg, at least early in the season?
Well, I think you have to be. You could be as talented as you could be in the secondary, but until you see game action, until you actually see live coverages and live competition, it's hard to really get an assessment from this group right now. Now, you listen to them on the internet, on TV, and they're all confident, and I certainly believe they're talented. But talent can only take you so far. You have to understand and get a feel for what you're doing, and look at who they have to replace. I mean, they replaced a very talented group of Michigan players from a year ago with guys that are in the NFL now, and so it's going to be interesting. But I certainly believe they could do it. But if there is a question mark for me, and the concern, if I have any area of concern, it would be this group, just because I know when you talk from an experience standpoint, this is one of those positions that, the more experience you have, usually the better.
You can have these great cover corners and your great safeties. Communication is so key back there with those four guys, and that takes time, a lot of times to develop. And as we talked about at the top of the show, they had spring ball, some of them together, but you've got a lot of freshmen in the mix in practice, and it's not as much time as you'd like to get kids ready, but communication is huge back there. You can't overlook that, can you, Greg?
Communication in anything, Mike, in anything you do is key, but when you're talking about a group of guys that have to deal with some of the best and fastest, wideouts and skill players in the country, throughout the Big Ten, you have to make sure everyone's on the same page. If you've seen some of the breakdowns that we had last year on defense, especially in the secondary, it was primarily communication problems that caused them, with people being in the wrong position and out of sorts, so to speak. So that definitely is a key. And who's going to make those calls? Who's going to communicate? These guys are just feeling their way. And I've seen there is a couple guys there that played last year. There are a couple guys trying to step up and stuff. But until you get on the field to actually go through that and see how it goes, you just don't know. But, Coach Brown has been in this game a lot longer than I have, and I'm very confident that if he believes that his defense isn't going to skip a beat, that they're pretty good, and they're going to do everything they can to keep everybody out of the end zone. And the nice thing about it is, as the season goes on, they get that experience, so they should just get better and better and better and better.
Well, as we know, the Florida opener just 2 weeks away, and we learned Sunday Florida has suspended 7 players for the opener against us. Only 2 of them are starters, both on the offensive side, an offensive lineman and their Galloway, their receiver, their star receiver. Still, this is a darn good football team. Do you think that game is going to tell us a lot about this Michigan team, or is it too early to put that kind of stock into the first game of the year?
I think somewhere in the middle. I think it's half and half. I don't really want to put too much stock in the first game. It's unfortunate what just happened with the Florida players because that takes away from the game. That's going to get the most attention, 7 players suspended. And we're going to hear that now all the way up until the start of the game and probably even after the game if it has some kind of impact on it. But I think, the first game, when I played, one of our first games every year was Notre Dame. And, Notre Dame game, you win, there's going to be a winner, there was going to be a loser. But that wasn't going to dictate what happened the rest of the season. And so I think it's very tough to say that we're going to put it all on one game to see where this team is going to be. But I do believe it's going to be it's going to give you a good indication on how good this team can be. And so we'll see. It's exciting that they are playing that caliber team in a culture now that you see college football starting to eliminate these patchy games, so to speak, to start off your season down in Dallas against Florida. That doesn't get any better than that. And so these kids, should be excited. These kids are going to have an experience second to none. They're going to go down to Jerry's World and one of the biggest and best stadiums in the country and play one of the traditionally powerhouse college football teams. Hey, that's what it's all about.
Well, looking past that Florida game, which we as fans can do, not as players, the Big Ten East, very, very tough this year, Greg. Penn State looks to be the real deal, and they come loaded from last year after a very impressive end to the season and a great Rose Bowl game against Southern Cal. And, of course, everyone thinks Ohio State is a playoff team. Whoever wins the East is going to be a very good football team, aren't they?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you look at how they set up these teams, you're talking about traditionally you got 3 of the best college football teams of all time when you go record. 3 of the best college football teams of all time in one division. So it's going to be very difficult. Then you have, Michigan State as well. So, it's not as if, you're not playing great competition and any one of these teams could beat you on any given, Saturday. So, yeah, it's going to be difficult. But I'll tell you what, Mike, I watched last year, I was rewatching a little bit of the Ohio State game, and this is what I believe. And I watched that game. We didn't lose to Ohio State. We beat ourselves that game, particularly in 2 turnovers that cost us, 14 points. One was a pick six, and one was, inside the red zone that allowed, gave Ohio State a score. Now, I know a lot of teams could say that, but that's a good thing. You know what? Not getting beat compared to beating yourself. Now, if we could limit those mistakes, and we could, let the talent and let everything be resolved on the field, and I think that Michigan's going to be in a good spot. However, if we do make those mistakes and we have turnovers and missed assignments and mental errors, then things won't fall our way. But we eliminate those mistakes. You play as good as you could, and as Michigan football, plays, and how Coach Harbaugh and his staff prepares you. We're going to be in for a pleasant surprise with this team, because I know there's right now a lot of question marks simply because we haven't seen these guys consistently on the field. But Coach Harbaugh has done a great job in recruiting, and so I think we'll be in the mix of it the whole year.
Well, last week, Greg, I know everyone's busy, but there are a lot of interesting stories that float around this time of the year because, of course, all the teams are preparing, and it's sort of dull for the media, so they have to come up with things. Last week, Dabo Swinney, Clemson's head coach, was on a radio talk show. I think it was down there. And he mentioned that after he watched tape on Ohio State in preparation for the playoff game, he got to see not only Ohio State, but a lot of the Big Ten. And he thought the Buckeyes, he told his staff, were in trouble when it came to playing Clemson after what he saw. So, he didn't say it outright, but he more or less said that the Big Ten was overrated. Do you think that's true, or is he just way off base?
all these guys that like to talk, that's all they do is talk. I mean, they listen, congratulations to them. You know what? They had a nice run to it and all this other stuff. But it's just everyone wants to claim and tout theirs. And for years I've been saying this. The Big Ten has been the leaders and the best in all the stuff that they've done. They've been innovators. They're the ones that came out with the TV network first. They're very solidified in what they do. Everybody wants to be the Big Ten. And so if you're knocking the Big Ten, that means you want to be like the Big Ten. So one of the reasons is there to knock the Big Ten. If unless you want to be part of the Big Ten or you want to do it like the Big Ten does. So it's just one of those things where, hey, the SEC had their run. I think that run is pretty much over. But they're a very good football conference. They're very good players. They have to not say they aren't would be wrong because they are. But the Big Ten is just as good. I mean, you look at all the players that get drafted from the Big Ten. We had 11 Michigan guys got drafted in the NFL. So, I mean, it's there. The competition's there. But let me tell you this. This is what all these Southern coaches don't want to talk about. Hey, Dabo, why don't you bring your team up and play for 2 months in November and December in the Big Ten elements, and then tell me how good your team is. Let's see them play in the elements and not in that nice weather all year round, or in those indoor stadiums and in that nice weather. Come on up when it's snowing and it's sub 20 degrees outside, or when it's raining and it's freezing cold rain where you can't feel your hands. Come up and bring your team up then, Dabo, and then let's talk about how good the Big Ten is.
Yeah.
That's one thing that people never talk about when it's talk about Northeast and Midwest football is the elements. The elements play such a key role in Big Ten football that always goes overlooked simply because, it's not as pretty sometimes. Well, it's not going to be as pretty, Mike. It's just the way it is. It's the way the weather, the weather is in the Big Ten country during, November and December. And so that definitely plays a major role and has a major impact on how the outcome of our game.
I agree with you 100% on that. Last question for you, Greg. Jim Harbaugh. Been back for 2 years now, and it has been a ride. I think we all agree with that. A lot of fun. And I guess you could even say it's still the honeymoon phase when it comes to the fans and the Jim Harbaugh era of Michigan football. Do you think that changes this year if this team struggles some and, heaven forbid, loses again to Ohio State?
I know that Coach Harbaugh understands why he came to Michigan. And I know that the precedent is on winning divisions and winning Big Ten championships. The precedent at Michigan has always and will always be to win the Big Ten championship. And so, yeah, I understand that. He understands that that's what he was brought in to do. And so, yeah, if something were to happen where, the team didn't take, those steps in that direction, sure, you're going to have the naysayers come out and get all on him. But realistically, he's so far ahead of schedule that it would be ludicrous in a sense to see if they did have a little hiccup and take a step backwards to say that he's not going in the right direction, because he is. He's just so ahead of schedule that everyone has these higher expectations. Well, listen, the expectations at Michigan have always been high. They will always be high, and I don't think Jim Harbaugh and his staff have a problem with them being high. They expect to take the field every time they play and win. That's just the way it is. And if you don't, you shouldn't play. And when they don't, of course, everybody gets on them. But listen, what he's done in the last 2 years has been short of magnificent. And with a couple of plays here and there, they're right in the thick of things. They very easily could have won that Ohio State game. Not, if they don't turn the ball over. But hey, if the referee spots that just an inch or two the other way, they beat Ohio State. So I mean, we're right there, and he certainly has a little bit of pressure on him, I think, to beat Ohio State. That's what everybody wants. But Jim Harbaugh, he has done a magnificent job. His staff has done a magnificent job, and I'm confident that they will continue to do a great job, and this team will be in the thick of things. And if it doesn't get, where we need to go, it's going to happen. It's just going to happen. And I think this is kind of one of those seasons, Mike, where you just don't know. It's like he's come out of the last 2 seasons. He had a little bit of upperclassmen, but now his teams totally are taking over. His recruiting classes are totally taking over. So this year is that pivotal year to where now, as of next year, he'll have his first full class at the University of Michigan, and we'll see where he takes it then. So there'll always be those naysayers, but I'm confident that Jim Harbaugh and his staff will do another marvelous job this year.
My guest on this week's show has been Michigan great Greg Skrepenak. As always, pleasure to have you on the show, Greg. And we look forward to getting you back during the season to share your thoughts on how things are going. So until then, enjoy what's left of summer and go blue.
Mike, always a pleasure. Thanks for having me, and go blue.
Quick Hits is next as we wrap it up for another week here on The Michigan Man on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. On Quick Hits today, at least so far, we have had no injuries reported through the first 2 weeks of practice. Let's hope it stays that way. Thanks again to Michigan great Greg Skrepenak for being our guest today. Greg could talk Michigan football all day, especially offensive line play, and he is a great guy, great guest. Greg will be back with us during the season. You can count on it. Next week, my scheduled guest is Shemi Schembechler. We can't go through the month of August and all of these preview shows without getting Shemi's thoughts on the coming season and about the great work he's doing with his latest endeavor, GES Advisory. So make sure you tune us in next week for Shemi Schembechler. I'm hoping to have a Michigan Man Extra for you later this week with Steve Lorenz from 24/7 Sports. If we can get Steve in here, we'll do our August recruiting update and get his thoughts on the latest Michigan football news. I'll give you a heads up on Facebook and Twitter a day or so before the show publishes. With the season fast approaching, make sure you have our free show app from the Google Play or iTunes stores. You can also hear us on Stitcher, iHeart, TuneIn, and Wolverine Sports Radio. If you get the show from iTunes, please take a minute to rate or comment on us. Thank you in advance. That will do it for this week's show. We're just 2 weeks away from the opening of the season, so make sure you join us each week as we continue our preview shows. And then the week of the Florida game, we'll have our game day feature with one of our writers. And later in the week, the visitors edition with Florida's beat writer or play-by-play voice. I'm still actually in the process of setting up interviews, so I will let you know as soon as I do. Have a great Wolverine week, everyone. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Until next time, take care, and as always, go blue. Thanks for joining us today on The Michigan Man, here on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. Our listener lines are open 24/7 for your calls at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Or email us at themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. That's themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan, and is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!